Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Kenyan American Home. And thank you so much for my subscribers, my notification gang people who keep coming back and liking and commenting and watching my videos. I really do appreciate, all the love and support that you show me. And if you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have nothing but good vibes around here. We talk about life, talk about so many things, challenges in the US, life, work, opportunities, immigration, all those topics. And this week, as I was thinking about it, I started to ask myself, why is it that I began to do this YouTube videos? And this is why I began to do YouTube videos. I've lived in the US for, 12 years and more than 12 years now, 12 years plus. And I've been fortunate enough to travel, to all the states in the US, all the way from Alaska to, to Hawaii. And part of the reason why I have been fortunate enough to travel through those, in all the states in the US is because I have traveled around the US to share my story, to share my compassion story. So an organization called Compassion International came into my life, and and through them and the local church, I was able, to come out of poverty. So I grew up really poor, grew up in a family of three boys, and my mom, it was really hard for her to be able to take care of us, and life was really difficult. When I think about growing up, as a kid, life was really a struggle. And so I thought about it, and the thing I thought about is I've shared my story to so many people. Here in the US, so many Americans know my story, but not so many Kenyans do know my story. And I think part of the reason is, and you find this with a lot of people who move to the US, is, and especially people who grow up in poverty, when they get out of that situation, a lot of times they don't want to look back because there's a lot of trauma that comes with poverty. The way they treated us. When you're poor, they treat you like dirt. When you're poor, they just, they treat you like you do not have any self-worth. And it's really, really, really difficult, especially for a young child going through poverty. The kind of insult or abuses, or people abuse you, or just the way people treat you. It's so degrading in so many ways, and through that you grow through a lot of trauma. And so that's why a lot of people, when they either, say move to the US and their life starts to get better, a lot of times people just don't want to look, they don't want to look in the rearview mirror and look back. A lot of people don't even want to go back home to Kenya or to the countries they came from because they have been so traumatized, and they just want to burn out that part of their life that was full of so much pain and struggle. Because growing up in poverty is difficult. The pain, the tears, the blood, it's constant. It's so constant. And so I mean, I totally understand why people say, I never ever want to be associated with that city again. I never want to be associated with that country again. I never want to go back to the same place, same town I grew up in poverty, because there's just so much pain. There's a lot of pain that comes with poverty. Just, because of everything you have to go through. But for me, one of the things I came to realize is, as much as a lot of people, yes, you say you want to burn out, take out that piece of history, or that piece of your life, and burn it out. I don't believe there's a way to do that. The only way through it is to actually deal with it. And part of it is, you have to, that's part of what I've done. I've done counseling. I've taken all that wreckage of my past, the poverty, the humiliation, the pain, the struggle, and I've been able to shine light on it. And and I'm a believer. I'm a believer in God, and God has been so good to me. God has been so good to me, because ultimately what happens is, you cannot burn out that part of you cannot burn out that part of your life forever from your life. Somehow, those skeletons that sometimes we think we bury deep, unfortunately, time will come when they will come out. And this is a story for another day, but I'll tell you another time about how my past almost ended my life here in the US. Just the wreckage of my past, it just became too much, and it sent me into this deep, deep, deep hole. It was just, it was crazy, and I almost didn't make it through. And so, for you, if you're, if you grow up in a situation where there's a lot of trauma and poverty, I would urge you, please try and get help to deal with that, because you can only cover it for you can only cover it for so long, because one day, one time, the skeletons are gonna come out, and when they do, it is not pretty. It is not pretty. It's not pretty. So yeah, so for me, that's why I can be able to stand and share my poverty story so freely with so many people, because I've been able to process and go through it. I've put it on the table. I've worked through the darkest times of my life. I've worked through it all. It's I haven't finished working through it all, but I've been able to at least shine light on so many areas. And really today, I wanted to come give you a testimony about a time in the past. It was an experience that I had with this family, and I'm gonna start to tell more stories about growing up in poverty and some of the things that I went through, because I believe I'm here to tell my story. And part of the also going back to why did I start this YouTube channel? I started this YouTube channel because I wanted to talk to my people who are back home. I wanted to talk to the people who are still languishing in the poverty, to the people who are going through the humiliation. People are putting you down. People are just they've they've written a story about you, and they've already published it. It's out there. They've written your story. You're born poor, you're gonna live poor, you're gonna die poor. That's your story. Nobody will ever get to know you. You will never do anything special. Nobody will remember you when you're gone. I'm saying that because that's my story. That's what they told me. That's what they told me. I remember sometimes when people looked to me as a little boy and they told me, Owen, you are worth less. It would have been better for your mom to buy food, to get food for the day, and rather than give birth to you, because it would have been more beneficial to her. Just it's painful when somebody looks at you and just tells you you're worthless. But not only that, tells you it would have been better for you not to be born, because you were that useless and worthless. But that's like somebody has come to a point where they've looked at you, looked at your life, they've devalued you based on how you look. But but that's the thing about people, is when people look at us, especially when we're struggling, and especially when you're going through poverty, is people look at you now, but they forget something, that I might look this way now, but hey, God, I am a work in progress. God is working through me. God is working in my life. And so it's like, hey, you might look at me today and think absolutely nothing about me, but remember, God is working through my life. Just, just hang on long enough. Hang on long enough. And I'm going to come give you my testimony. Because the people who told me the same things are the people who were there when God did it for me. This particular experience, and I say this because I want to share my story, and part of it is sometimes when we come here and we're out of the poverty and we're sharing our testimonies, and we talk about, especially when it comes to family, and especially in my Kenyan community, we are so good at trying to cover things. Hey, swipe those things under the rug. Don't talk about your family in public. Don't talk about your family to people. And so, and these same families are the families who've mistreated us, assaulted us. But yet, they want us to keep it under the table. They don't want us to talk about it. They don't want us to share. But when we share, we shine light. When we share, we educate. When we share, we inform. And so I'm talking to you. If you have a story to tell, do tell your story. Because what they'll tell us, don't share your story. You're going to humiliate your family. You're going to humiliate your friends. But these are the same friends and families who did bad to us. Sometimes the truth has to come out, because in sharing this, one of the things you get to realize is you're speaking so many people's stories. And then we keep doing, all we keep doing is when we keep quiet, we keep sweeping it under the rug. And this thing keeps going on and on. But when we share, we bring awareness. But the story I'm going to tell you today is a story about, God coming through for me in a way that, and God giving me a position to, to react to the same people who did the same things to me and the choices that I decided to make. So here's my story. So when I was a little boy, okay, when I was a little boy, I was hungry a lot of times. A lot of days at home we could not get food. And so if you've ever been hungry for going for a day or more than a day, man, you start to get really hungry. You start to shake. I mean, you would do absolutely anything just to get food in your stomach. And and so that, for me, that was the point that I had to start knocking on people's doors and asking for food. And the way I would do that, whether it's going to my relatives or going to neighbors, I would go and pretend that I'm watching TV, because I grew up in a house that didn't have electricity, didn't have a TV. And so I would go and pretend that I'm watching the TV. But the whole time I had a, the whole time I had, I had an agenda. I came to eat. I wasn't going to leave until they gave me food. But in the meantime, I pretended as if I came to watch the TV. And so, you know, I stayed watching the TV until, they cooked and they served food a lot of times. And sometimes they gave you, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they sent you away before they even started serving the food. But this is this particular story. Okay. So I went to this family, and since I've shared this story on TikTok, and they reached out to me actually. And I'm gonna share it again, because uh there's no animosity. I'm sharing this out of love, and it's a situation of hashed out. The family that did this to me, I mean, we love each other. There's forgiveness. There's been forgiveness, and we've moved on past this. But it's I believe it's a story that I need to tell, because I know somebody else out there is going through the same things. Okay, so this particular day I go, same routine. I'm pretending I'm watching TV. So I'm here, watching TV. I'm pretending it's like my eyes are glued to the TV, but I'm counting on my time, because I need them to cook. I need them to make food so that I can eat and go home full. So this particular day I went to this family. I was I hadn't eaten anything for like a day and a half, close to 2 days. And I was really hungry. I really needed the food. And so I was determined, come what may, I'm gonna stay here until you feed me. So I'm watching TV, and so they were like, so it was a family of four. It was a dad, mom, and two kids. Dad, mom, and two kids. So, the kids are playing. Kids are a little bit younger than I was. And I'm watching TV. And then so the mom starts cooking. She makes the food. And the whole time watching TV, like, yeah, acting like that's what I came here for. I came here to watch TV. So she makes food. And then food is ready, and then she starts serving the food. All right. So I'm getting really excited, because I know it's like the worms in my stomach, they're starting to even complain, because I haven't eaten anything for like 2 days, and I'm really hungry. So she starts serving the food, and she starts with the dad. Okay, big portions, gives the dad big portions, and then the kids big portions. Then she serves herself, big portion. There's food left, but there's no plate in sight. So she brought 4 plates. So the whole time I'm like, okay, maybe she's gonna go get a plate for me and serve me food because there's still food that is left over that she can serve me. But she doesn't stand up to bring any plate. They say a prayer, which is very ironical. They say a prayer and they start eating. And the whole time I'm here, I'm hungry. And it just dawns on me that they're actually going to eat while I look at them. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that, but it starts to get emotional really quickly on the realization that these people are going to eat while you watch them eat. And you've gone for more than a day without having food to eat. It's You start to get emotional. I remember it's like that night, I still remember that night. It doesn't affect me like it used to, but I still remember that night. And I mean I could feel the tears well in my eyes, but I wasn't gonna cry. But then I could feel this like there was a hot potato in my throat. And it was just this feeling that so you're just gonna serve everybody food and not serve me. And that's what they did. And they eat. They're not serving me food. So it's so awkward. But I mean, they're going on like nothing, like not no one's business. But the whole time I'm like, wow, God, why, why me? Why do I have to go through all this? Why? So they finish. Okay, so they finish eating. All right, finish eating. The dad's finished eating. The mom's finished eating, and the kids are finishing eating. But the kids leave some food on the plate. And then once the kid turns the plate over to the mom takes the leftover, you know, the leftover, the kids, the kid has been eating. It was a girl, this kid. So she asked me, "Do you want to eat? And do you want to eat?" She was asking me if I want to eat the leftover the girl had left on her plate. And I'm really hungry. I'm gonna eat anything. Just give me even say I'm gonna eat anything because I could eat anything. And said I say yes. And so she hands the plate over to the girl so that she can. So the good leftover food is in the pans. What she's giving me is a leftover of what the daughter has been eating. And then this little girl, I was like 4 or 5 years my junior, takes the plate. Before she gives me the plate, she spits on the plate, on the food. The mom is looking, the dad is looking, the other brother is looking. She spits on the food, her leftovers, and then hands me the plate. And I'm like, wow. But I couldn't do anything. I was so hungry. I couldn't think about what just happened. What I did, I took the plate, I ate the food with a spit in it. I finished it. And I was hungry. There was nothing else. I wasn't going to say no. I ate the food. And I finished it. She didn't add me any of the leftovers. And then she sent me away. Said, go home now. Go home now. So I stood up. And you know where I was seated the whole time? I was seated on the floor. Well, they were all seated on the chairs, on the couch. I watched the TV while seated on the floor. Because when I came in, she told me that I was too dirty to sit on her chair. So I stand up from the floor and walk out. And I remember the minute I closed that door, it's like the tears just started to drop. I remember I was going home and I was saying, God, wow, you just saw what happened back there. I don't even have to re- rehash it. But I said, God, those people just asked one fundamental question. It's like they're asking, what kind of a God do you serve that will let you go through all this? Wow. But it's the way people mistreat you when you do not have money. It's the way people mistreat you when you're poor. It's Man, it's the jobs they give you. They put you down. They constantly. I mean, you're never invited to anything. It divides families. When you look at families, there's favoritisms amongst kids and their parents. The kids who have money are more favored by their parents. Kids who don't have money, they're not favored. Kids who have money, their opinion matters. The ones who do not have money, their opinions don't matter. You're not invited to important functions if you do not have money. People who have money, they get help. People who have money, they just, they get the love and the support. But unfortunately, if you're poor, and especially poor in my country, Kenya, you are nothing for you. Nothing for you. So I tell that story because, that's the kind of story, if I didn't deal with the pain, if I didn't deal with just the trauma, this is the kind of story I would never tell anybody. But good thing is I've been able to deal with it, and it's now I know that was preparing me for something bigger. That God was still at work even when I was going through that as a small boy. And because I've healed and dealt with that, I can tell this story. I can tell this story, and I can tell this story because I can say, but God turned around my situation, broke me from the generational curse of poverty that had affected my family. I broke out of of the generational curse of poverty, and today poverty is no longer part of me. Poverty has been broken forever. Poverty will no longer ever be part of the DNA of my lineage or my family going forward. But I told you that God turns around the situation and puts you in the same position as their family. So the family was put in a position where they had, but they chose to humiliate me instead of just give me food and love on me. And then when God turned my situation around, and I'll tell you more stories about poverty and how God kind of took me out of that. But from this story, because when God delivered me, one of the first times I went back to Kenya from the US, one of the first homes that I wanted to go to was the home of this woman, this family that had done this for me. You know, I just needed food, but they just didn't give me food. They humiliated me in the worst way possible. I just, I took a couple of my friends and we did this huge shopping and delivered it to this family. And I remember knocking on their door and the lady opening and looking at me, and she almost fell back. They were struggling this time. Things had changed for them. They were not as well off as they used to be when I was a little boy. They were struggling financially. They were struggling health wise too. They needed help. So that's this lady, sickly, and she was the one who was sick. And she opened the door and looked at me. She almost fell back. I didn't go back to that house after that day. And I don't know if she remembered me or thought about me, but she remembered me when I knocked on her door. And I said, "Hey, I did shopping for you, and I'm in town. I came and I decided, hey, why don't I just drop and bless you because you were a huge blessing to me." Man, I don't want to get emotional because, bam, I didn't intend to get emotional. But God gave me the same opportunity to come upon this family. And if I was still hurt, if I hadn't dealt with the pain of my past, I would have just gone there, annihilated them, insulted them, treated them badly. But, but I knew otherwise, you know? I knew otherwise. Because for me, I think if it isn't for the people who put us down the most, we wouldn't have prayed the way we did. We wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, now, nani amekata onions hapa? Who's cut onions around here? Come on now, don't cut onions. If it wasn't for those people who did these things to us, we wouldn't have prayed the way we did. We wouldn't. So for me, I consider them blessings because they pushed me. They thought they were humiliating me and putting me down, but they were putting me down on my knees. They were getting me right where I needed to be, that is on my knees, so that I can tell God, I need you, God. I cannot do it without my own strength. So I went to this family. I blessed them with shopping that day. But then I sat down with them, and this time they cooked. They served me first. They served me first this time. I sat on a chair this time. And I talked to them and I, listened to them. They were struggling financially. And, they were also struggling health-wise. Part of the problem was they didn't have money to help their daughter through college. And the same daughter spit on my food. That same daughter was the one that needed to go to college. And I did not even hesitate. I said, hey, yeah, no. Let's talk about it. And I was able to help her to go to college. She's graduated now. She's doing good. She went back and helping her family. And man, I'm so glad that when God gave me the opportunity to turn around and do the same thing, I chose to do good. Because do good, and good will come back to you. Man, I didn't intend to. I wasn't planning on that. That kind of took a different tangent than I thought it would. But that's a story. That's one of I have so many stories about people treating me badly and poorly just because I was and I used to be this innocent looking kid. Had a smile on his face. I wonder, it's like, These people see, oh, this nice, smiley little kid. It's like, we should love on him. He's struggling. But no. Bullet, boom, 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 boom. Let's beat down this kid. Hey, but God did it for me. And one of the things I vowed to do is I vowed to never forget where I come from. And I cannot do that when I erase my past. I cannot erase my past. I could just have to deal with it. Yeah. I get emotional. I got emotional not because I'm in pain. I got emotional because it was just thinking about the goodness of God. The God would turn around my situation and give me back. It's like the story of Joseph. Joseph had these dreams in the Bible, and he told his brothers his dreams about one day them bowing down before him, and his brothers almost killed him, but then they sold him off to Egypt. And then, you know, fast forward through all the tragedies that Joseph went through to the time when his family came back, came to Egypt, and they needed help. And Joseph looked at them, and it was it was probably, I mean, Joseph was probably worse because that's your family wanting to kill you. But can you imagine what was going on in Joseph's mind? But Joseph chose to do the good thing, the right thing. So yeah, let me know, guys, if you want me to share more on my stories growing up in poverty, and because I believe I need to share this story for somebody who is back home, who is going through it, man. Family. Oh man, I have some horror story from families, man. From my family. And I'm not shy enough to share about them. They happened. They happened. And it's not humiliating, it's educating, it's informing. So let me know if you guys want me to share more about my story growing up. But man, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Please do. Please do. Yeah. And thank you so much again for the support. Love you. Love you guys. Nawapenda sana. God bless.